All right, welcome back, and this is Smart 24, and these are financial markets. This program comes to you live from Monday up to Friday from 10 up to midday. And then we have FOREX from midday up to 1 by Marcelino, my colleague. And so we're still basically in our first part of the hour, and we are looking at some of the economic indicators, and also later on we shall be also looking at a few other important economic parameters, but also including the stock market. The stock market is a very important part of the economy. But let's now just drive deep into some of the numbers within the economy as per the World Bank. So this is coming from the World Bank, and we can see that inflation rate as we speak right now is basically what was last reported was 2.7%, and inflation, as we said, is basically most of the time this is headline inflation, and so it will be called inflation because it's the general and overall inflation in the economy. And then you also have the consumer price index. The consumer price index is a very important economic parameter because it really gives us a clue on how on the prices of goods and services in the economy. And you can see over there that it's at basically 114. Food inflation is also a very good component to note because, I mean, all of us on a daily basis have to basically eat food, and its affordability will largely depend on the price. And so you have it at 5.3%. That's the food inflation. And I think it has basically gone up a bit right from 2020 when we had so much food around. We had it probably below 5%. But now we have it at 5.3%. But a healthy kind of inflation, as we normally say, is good for the economy because you don't have a lot of money in circulation. You don't have a lot of highly priced goods, but you also don't have a very low inflation or probably a deflation. So either way, a very good, favorable kind of inflation is one that is average, depending also on other economic parameters. But as you can see over here, food inflation of 5.3% hasn't changed. Core consumer prices are also at 115 percentage points, as we can see. Then core inflation rate is at 2.3%. That is the core inflation. Well, core inflation, as we remember, is it doesn't include food and also energy, but however it includes everything else. It includes the change in the prices of goods and services, excluding energy and food. It's at 2.3%, as you can see over there. That is the core inflation. It was at about 2.9%, but now it's at 2.3%, last reported. Then the consumer price index housing utilities are at about 112. This includes everything in your house to do with utilities, including electricity and water and everything else. So it was about 112 percentage points. And then you had the consumer price index on transportation at about 141. This was quite a higher figure, depending on also many of us have basically been actually using public transport of late. And if you happen to use public transport if you happen to use public transport in the year 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and 2021, probably you can see that you would actually pay double what you actually were paying previously. in the pre-COVID times. So, well, the consumer price index in transportation was a bit high from 149 and went a bit low to 141 percentage points. Export prices also increased from about 197 that's the previous reported, and then probably to about 201 percentage points. That's for the export prices. And just recall that, well, exports last year were a bit, and also most especially in 2020, were basically very, very low. And we actually had also just a few dollars in the economy. We had a few foreign currency and also foreign exchange activities going on in 2020. But we can see a recovery. We can see a recovery as we see much of the problems that were caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. They're kind of like easing out, and we can see a clear path. Though it will not be really easy, as the Bank of Uganda predicts that probably we may have pre-pandemic growth levels only after 2024. That is something probably we can ponder about and try to look through and see, but it is a general effort. It's a general effort for the citizens, for you and I, to do what we can, no matter what it is, and then probably from there you can see also an impact on the whole. So it starts from the individual, the individuals, and then to the whole, and then probably you can see a change over there. So you have the import prices. Having a look at the import prices, you can see that it hasn't much of changed. It is actually at 182. It was previously at 182, and it was still last reported at 182. And so 182 percentage points. And so inflation rate also basically kind of, this is a change. It basically changed. It was previously reported at 0.5, percentage change of about 0.5, and then probably you had a deep change of 0.3, a downward change, we must say. That was the last reported. So we also have producer prices. Well, producer prices index is also a very important figure or economic indicator to note, because it really gives it gives manufacturers and producers a very, very good, a very good outlook of what really the prices of raw materials and also the production and everything to do with manufacturing and production. So it was about 215 that it changed, and it is still at 215 percentage points. So also having a look at the producer prices change, yes, there is a change previously reported at 15.6% and to about 18%. So you can see over here that you will definitely have this. You definitely, if you have some of these economic parameters right on your fingertips, for example, inflation, also food inflation, because Uganda is an agricultural country, and therefore you can't really talk about inflation without talking about food. And so food inflation, you have the core inflation, and then you have the export prices and how they have basically performed. And then you have over there, yes, the consumer price index also on utilities, housing utilities, because these are also very important for us, because as consumers, as also people who stay in our homes and probably in our houses, you have to basically, at one point in time, pay some of these utilities, for example, water and power, or probably electricity. So it is very important to note that at any one point in time, you have to keep these numbers right on your fingertips. And so, well, we're going to be basically having even more coming up tomorrow. For example, we also have to look at how Uganda is, some of the business performance indicators, in Uganda, and how basically we are ranking with other countries. So as an investor, as a business person, these economic parameters will always be important. And if you keep them right at your fingertips, they would really mean a lot. So let's now also have a look at what is basically trending in the stock market. So the stock market as well is a very important part of business. And well, this is only a snapshot. This is only a snapshot from Uganda Securities Exchange. And just to have a look at some of the companies listed, and also there are about 16 of them listed on the exchange, and also just to see how their price, their share prices are basically are at right now. And so, yes, the stock market in Uganda is basically, it has quite a number of players, and it's a young, we should say it's a young market per se, because I mean you have only about 16 of them, for example, on the USE, but more are coming on board, and there is some bit of a very wonderful future for many of the Ugandan companies to raise capital even from the public. And so it is a very big component. And then we shall also be bringing you a lot of what is happening in the world of the stock exchange, both in Africa and also all across the globe. And just recall that much of this information is basically coming from sources, trusted sources, and you can actually have much of this information right here on Smart 24. And we shall continue as well to bring you much of these real-time numbers and figures, So we are basically working on bringing you these numbers on real time. Yes, so if you look at the African stock market as well, yes, we see that Nigeria is basically performing quite well, and South Africa, and also it is also quite important to note that also Nairobi, say Kenya, is also on the good side as well. Probably you can see very good performance even in our neighbors' performance of their stock market, including even Tanzania. Dar es Salaam is doing quite tremendously well, and so much of that could be actually borrowed, and probably we should make buying shares and also trading stock a culture right from high school. And I think these are very important things to know. However, the stock market will give you and I an opportunity to buy into publicly listed companies so that you can make a return on your investment over time. And that is the importance of the stock market, because even in the New York Stock Exchange market, you will see that many companies are traded over there, over 4,000 of them, and each and every time stock is traded, it's very volatile, it's very active, and it can make many millionaires on a single day, because going public for any company is something really, really big. And then from here after, we shall also be bringing you a lot to do with with what it takes to list your company on the stock exchange. And this is still from the Ghana Securities Exchange, and you will actually have a very, very good outlook, or probably you can make a decision to either go public or even not to, basing on your decision. But I think that more companies probably would need to list their companies on the stock market of Uganda. So we have very many actually companies, or probably stock markets that you can list your company and probably even raise more capital. And many times it makes real-time millionaires and billionaires even all across the world in terms of increasing the overall company value and the share price. So the more people buy into certain kind of stock, then probably you will find the price going up, and it will indeed also have an impact on the overall value of the company, thereby also increasing the value of your stock if you invested earlier, or probably increasing the value of your stock over time if you invest during an IPO or any other means when the company calls for any kind of selling of shares or probably stock to the public. So this is a snapshot. Some of the companies listed are basically Ugandan, and some are a bit founded by Kenyan companies, and also, of course, some, but most of them, as you can see, are Ugandan, and except probably Bank of Baroda and a few others. However, the stock market, you can even list your company on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. For example, Jumia, about 3 years ago, listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And I think that was quite something to really note for Africa as well. However, looking at the Bank of Baroda shares and how it's performing, you have a share price at 90. And well, just recall that these are not real-time figures, but these are figures that basically give you a clue on the current share price. So our interest probably will more lie on the share prices more than the changes, because these figures are changing all the time. And by evening, probably you can actually be in position to access this information right on your best information friend, and that is Google. So you can get that information anytime. However, the share price for Bank of Baroda stands at 90 shillings per share, and then you have the British American Tobacco, Uganda, which has its share price at 30,000. And most important to note as well, we have some companies like Uganda Clays listed on the exchange, which were basically, I think Uganda Clays was the first company to be listed on the Ghana Securities Exchange in the late 1990s, probably in 2000. So you had Uganda Clays list, and then probably, I think it's the oldest publicly listed company in Uganda, and it is very important to know. So we can say about 22 years now in existence, I think is something really to commend and to also applaud, because this is what really makes an economy, or probably this is what makes huge companies. However, I'm not saying that probably you can't build privately held companies big, you can't make them big. Yes, they can become big, but a lot of meat and bone is added to the economy when you have the stock market very volatile, very active, and very alert. So the Centium Investment Company Limited also listed. some years ago, and you can see its share price is at 440.68 shillings per share. And then we have Cipla Quality Chemical Industries Limited. Its share price is at about 93.22. These are figures that are basically, this is a snapshot, but it is not a real-time kind of a chart. So you should be very aware of that. So the Cipla Quality Chemical Industries is at 93.22 per share, shillings per share, and I think that is also quite important to know. Development Finance Company of Uganda, or probably DFCU, is also trading on the exchange, and its share price is at about 564 shillings per share. You have East African Breweries Limited. Its share price is at 5,009.85. So probably we could say that whereas the British American Tobacco Uganda has a share price of 30,000, it has the highest. And then probably you can see over there that the second highest is the East African Breweries Limited. It has the second highest share price. However, keeping other factors constant, it's always important to note that it is not always the share price that will determine the value of the company, but you'll have also a few other factors to consider most of the time. So the stock market is very volatile and also depends on a number of things happening in the economy. A very simple propaganda can basically impact. It can impact on the stock market and also probably political instability, and so it's just basically on speculation and anticipation. So these share prices can be actually determined. Just a mere word from a CEO of a publicly listed company can actually either push the share price up or the share price down. Just a mere bad treatment of a customer on one of the public listed companies can actually push the share price down. So it's not much volatile. Much is about anticipation and also about what is happening in real time. So let's stop at Uganda, at East African Breweries Limited. We're going to be right back with more on Equity Bank and how it's performing, its share price, KCB Bank. And then probably let's just go for a very short commercial break, and I'm going to be right back with more in the stock market.